Hi and welcome to Questions That Matter, where we answer questions about Catholic faith. And today's question is, how many kinds of saints are there? Now, today we officially celebrate what we call All Saints Day in the Roman Catholic Church, and as such, based on the calendar of saints in the Liturgy of the Hours, or the Roman Missal, we can see that there we have many saints in our church history. But in spite of the diversity of saints that we have, did you know that there are only two kinds of saints? We call them the martyrs and the confessors. Yes, it's a very inspiring thing to know that our church has a diverse number of holy men and women who are now in heaven, but is still united with us in prayers, interceding for us with God the Father. But did you also know that these saints are people in different countries when they were still alive on earth, in different social and economic status, with previous belief practices and many other things before they became saints? They are priests, monks, friars, brothers, nuns, sisters, bishops, even popes, founders of religious organizations, and some are virgins, wives, mothers, husbands, and fathers. Some are evangelists, pastors, teachers, catechists, and those who volunteered and work with the poorest of the poor. Well, they represent every period of the church's history and every inhabited place place on earth. But they are essentially one of two things: a martyr for the faith or a confessor of the faith. Aside from that, they hold a common trait, that is, they loved God and the church tremendously, more than they loved themselves. And they have shown it in quite two different ways. The martyrs poured their blood for the love of God, while the confessors did everything and have shown the greatest example of faith in their lives, but made the ultimate sacrifice. Now, let's talk about the first martyr saint. One very good example of this is Saint Stephen, the very first martyr of the faith in the early Christian communities, just right after the Assumption of our Lord in heaven. His martyrdom is told in the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 6, verse 8, as he was stoned to death by members of the Sanhedrin, and laid their cloaks at the feet of Saul of Tarsus, as he looks on while Saint Stephen is being stoned to death. Now, not knowing that not very long he himself will suffer the same fate and die for the love of Jesus Christ. Another good example is Saint James, who was martyred through beheading by the Sanhedrin during the also apostolic era, also mentioned in the book of Acts of the Apostles. And I guess we all know the rest of the story except for Saint John. All of the rest of the apostles were martyred, and this is the due primarily to the Roman persecution in the first 3 centuries of Christianity. That long, 3 centuries. The same is true with the saints who succeeded the apostles, like Saint Clement of Rome, Saint Ignatius of Antioch, Saint Polycarp, and the saints who are named in the Eucharistic Prayer 1, like Saints Agatha, Saint Cecilia, Saint Anastasia, Saint Lucy, Saint Felicity, Saint Perpetua, and Saint Agnes. Although during the early days the church did not have a distinctly developed process of proclaiming saints, the early Christians shared stories and information of the martyrs who suffered and died at the hands of the Romans. And with this, um, um, they hallowed or made holy the very sites of their executions, and preserved their relics, and from there started the tradition of placing these relics in the altar beginning in the 3rd century. This also include the people's devotion and prayers for intercession. Let's talk about now the martyred confessors. Christians experienced the first taste of freedom to express their faith when Emperor Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, and also later on when Emperor Theodosius made Christianity the official state religion of the Roman Empire. And it was then that the opportunity for martyrdom started to decline. Now, the church then needed to develop a process for investigating the sanctity of a Catholic, of a particular person who died in a natural death or natural causes, which started the practice of canonizing the confessors. But this process is somewhat inaccurate, given that the information was taken from the people who would testify regarding the holiness of the one being a candidate for being a saint. For this reason, the bishop of the diocese needs to have the authority to supervise what we became known as the cause for canonization. What is this cause for canonization? This is the gathering of information about the holy person's life, including any writings, if any. The one investigating would talk to people, relatives, friends, and those who worked or lived with the holy person. And finally, the most important of all, the healing testimonies of those who were miraculously cured of their sickness, as the people around the sick person prayed for the intercession of the candidate who is believed to be a saint in heaven. It is the miracles that were considered to be the most essential manifestation of the saint's intercession with God in heaven. The first confessor is considered to be Saint Martin of Tours, whose feast is celebrated on November 11, this coming November 11. He was the very first confessor. He was a convert from paganism, a soldier of the Roman army, who, after being baptized as a Christian, decided and refused and no longer want to fight in battle. He said, "I am a soldier of Christ. I refuse to fight." And with that, he was arrested but escaped execution when the enemy during that war surrendered. Saint Martin was a disciple of Saint Hilary of Poitiers in France. Saint Martin died in AD 397, and devotion to Saint Martin of Tours became widespread, and a shrine was built in Santiago de Compostela in Spain for him. There you have it. For our question on the two kinds of saints, the martyrs who shed their blood for Christ and the church, and the confessors who remained loyal to Christ, to his church, and also died dedicating their lives to remain loyal to the Lord and to the church, the Roman Catholic Church. Thank you for your time, and if you'd like to pray for your dead, dearly beloved, please do so. You offer also mass for them, or rosary prayers for them. And God bless everyone. See you again next time. Catholics, be proud and be the light of the world.